Hello everybody, it's Colleen from Tin Can Tarot, and today I'm celebrating mass market decks that I can still buy for under $25. My first one is New Era Elements Tarot. I saw on Benabel Wen's post about Spirit Keeper, believe it or not, or no, Sightseers or one of those. And I saw this deck and I had seen it before and hadn't picked it up, and so I checked it out and found out it was under $20. It was by US Games. Creator was Eleanor F. Piper, PhD. And the diversity and the artistry won me over, and I could buy it. Because while I'm on a budget with my Tin Can Tarot business, I have to make a website still and things like that, I could still give myself that joy we have of collecting new decks. And you can see the diversity in here in the court cards. You can see the artistry in the line drawings. And again, accessible for everybody, US Games. So let's celebrate our mass market decks and take a look inside. Hold on while I take off the paper. You don't have to be here for that. Okay, so we're back. I've taken the paper off and I've actually gone through the deck a little bit. So we have to do it again though. And here we are with a beautiful full-on hard case, two-piece with the thumb space hard box from US Games. So we're definitely upping even the mass market deck box, because you know me, I'd be getting a TheTarotKeeper bag right away if this wasn't something that I could keep using over and over. So that's exciting. Like I said, remember, it's it's just a mass market deck that I got for under $20. Here is our guidebook with dolphins on it. It is really good sized print, so that even though the book is small, you can read it. They give you correspondences for zodiac and fire. It's a very elemental deck, by the way. It's usually really using a lot of elemental forces in it. It has keywords, it has meanings for the card for you, and it also has exploring the cards, which is what the creator's idea was in using the images that she does. The pip decks are based on Aleister Crowley. Did I say Alex? So you're going to see some keywords like you would in a Thoth deck. So keep that in mind. It's a little bit more Thoth than Rider-Waite, which is good for me because I don't have a lot of Thoth decks. So this is going to be good to have it. And it has some spreads in the back. So this is a really decent guidebook to go with it. Pretty exciting. Then it has the Element Three of Cups title card. And here we go. Did I show you the backs? I'm going to show you a back now. The backing is the 4 elements, and it is not reversible. The cardstock is thick. The deck stands taller than most boxes, I'd say, by at least 1/4 of an inch, and it's a really thick cardstock. The lamination has no edging or gilding, and I do think the lamination will probably split, but I have to be honest with you, all of mine pretty much do eventually, so nothing there. Here we go with our card walkthrough. We have beautiful sepia toned illustrations. They're all the same in terms of the coloration. And we have our elemental signifier here. And very often we also have a zodiacal symbol here. But in this one we kind of don't. We just have that this is air association. And we have the new soul that is coming into existence again. Despite the fact that he is being threatened by the elements of the earth, that this is kind of a harsh place to be, a very dense place to be, but he's coming in his energetic cocoon or egg with the butterfly sort of transformation up here, getting ready to descend and have his journey. So that's kind of beautiful. So, and this I love. We've got kind of a manifester that really makes things happen. In this case, he's a wheeler and dealer of the planet Earth, with concerns of staying young, with concerns of staying in touch with people, with political concerns of being in the know, while making his fortune in the actual physical plane. I have to look up what that is. I'm not sure. The high priestess here is the creator. And she is sitting in her yoga pants with her lotus position, doing her cards, seeking answers, going behind the veil. Can relate. The Empress, one of my favorite cards, is Mother Nature herself. She's giving life without a concern or for practicality, really, just surviving, just living, just being authentic, which is really, they don't have the same concerns of all the pretenses that some of us folks in Hollywood might have in this tribe, is what I'm deducing. They are just creating and living. And yes, I know there's other concerns. I'm not naive, but for the sake of the card. Our Emperor, see, again, very relatable images, things that are in our daily life that we could, I think that if Pamela Coleman Smith was illustrating today, she would be using modern images and not Elizabethan or Shakespearean stage representations. But there we go. This is the Emperor with his stone throne. How appropriate is that? His making of laws, his organizing of people and where they go and how they behave, and trying to set wrongs right. Love that. Our Hierophant is not a pope. He's our Dalai Lama, our very own Dalai Lama. This is now where we turn to get intermediary information from the divine. We listen to the Dalai Lama like people used to listen to the Pope. Our Lovers are people who have sustained the test of time. They have gone the long haul. This is not a young group that are influenced by Adam and Eve. This is the day-to-day companionship that transcends and is sacred as this tree. Look at that. Beautiful, right? The Chariot is an interesting one. This is like a modern-day Trojan horse and a tank that sort of gets us through the elements. Like, we conquer the earth with this. We conquer the nature with this. And we sort of take over with this. So the Chariot in traditional Rider-Waite would be the buggy that's going into battle. This is our battle every day, is against Mother Nature and the earth to make it conform to our will, right? So this is an interesting one. Okay, Justice, which in this case is adjustment. Balance, it could be karmic balance, could be all that. Really interesting card. I'm fussing. The Hermit, he's interesting, isn't he? An elderly gent who's walking his own path, who's kind of making his own sense out of what life means. He's had the experience now, and he is now at a point of reflecting and trying to figure out what it all means. Oops, sorry about that. Our Wheel of Fortune it's a roulette. Life is just a series of cycles, ups and downs, win and lose. Luck. This is called luck, really. Strength, instead of between two separate forces, we have the strength that's found in the Lion. Don't have a maiden in that one, do we? Hanged Man, pretty classic. Easy on the eyes. Death, beautiful card. Not an unfamiliar image, right? Temperance is different. Temperance is an interesting card. It is being offered water to soothe, to balance, to quench the fire, to give you some peace and solace, to try to mix this in with what you've got to make something else. I mean, how many things do we mix water with to make it a drink or a washing powder or a spa treatment? I think we could go on and on. The devil, this is interesting. This is all the symbols of man's abuse and the carnage that's left behind. The abuse of power. The temptation to control others and have things go our way. It's all in here. The Tower is powerful. It's a combination of two monumental events. One is the tearing down of the Berlin Wall, and the other is the 9/11 towers falling down. So that we now know what it's like to live in comfort, and we also know what it's like to live in fear. The star. We have our star, which is like our compass, but we have a lighthouse, which is another way of saying, let it be your guide, right? Let it be your compass point, your North Star, where you're headed. The moon, and we don't have a treacherous path. We have moonflowers, which sort of say that this is a time of being in your intuition. But it's also saying that there might be things that are hidden in the darkness that we can't see because we're only seeing a piece of the story. A lot of the situation is in shadow. So beware of that. The sun, pretty self-explanatory. We got the kind of obligatory sunflowers that go with the sun. Happy, happy. Judgment. This is not a judgment of our God, but of ourselves. Can we look at ourselves in the mirror? And when we do, what do we see? Pretty powerful. The universe, a temple dancer, right? She is making offerings and dancing to the deities, making herself one with them. And kind of a cosmic musical, music to me is a higher sphere, and she is dancing to the higher spheres. Here we go now. We are into fire, which is wands. And all the aces are alike. They have the same kind of elemental surrounding with the actual representation of the element in the center. Probably the aces are some of my less favorite because it doesn't really exalt them like I like them to be exalted. It's a little busy, it's a little crowded, but and they're all the same. So maybe that isn't my favorite part of the deck, but there's plenty of other things that are. So here we go into more of a Crowley kind of sense of this is fire for 2, which is domination, which is a little bit harsher, than our Rider Waite, but essentially kind of the same. I mean, it does have the same verb associated with them, the same action, the same meaning. Exploration. This is literally, we think of sometimes the 3 of Wands is that you have launched your ship, your dream, your passion, your business, and you're just waiting for it to come in. In this case, you literally are launching a rocket ship. Perfection. Interesting thing for the 4 of Wands. Perfection is the culmination of building something as just the way you want it so that it comes out successful, right? 4s again. She's doing fire dancing. What she's doing, she's got these fire wands that they use in Burning Man a lot, and they have 3 prongs, and you use them like fans. I think they're called fire fans, actually. So this is a dancer dancing with fire. So I guess it's the dancer and the fire being one, creating perfection. Just kind of thinking out loud. Conflict for 5 of Wands. I always think of 5 of Wands as kind of, it is competition and conflict, but this one is serious. This looks like it's life and death, where I always think of it as much more like practice, getting your skills sharpened against your peers, rivalry that's healthy, that makes each of us better. This one looks like it's actually dropping bombs. So this takes it a step darker. Victory. Going from sort of a something that we have to stretch for, something in the past, sort of like the bombers from the past, we're going into very much today, winning the race. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't have to stay in shape for the next one, right? Bravery. again, a little bit of a twist from defense, which I sort of think of as 7 of wands, but I like it. Bravery, they're going in. Again, 9/11 reminds me of. But all the fires for all the California fires that we've had too. 8, swiftness. It's a good representation. It's usually all the wands or arrows that are flying through the air. In this case, it's racing cars. Power. Now, I love this because 9 usually is coming to the epiphany of a cycle, and in our Rider-Waite, we tend to have somebody that looks a little bit bedraggled, looks like he's got to make one more stand before he gets what he wants, darkest before the dawn. In this one, it's saying you are coming into your power, and you're starting to feel it, and you're starting to shine, and things are moving and bending to your will, which I think really works for 9s. 10, oppression. This one is tricky because I don't know if I'm, I know it's overwhelm and burden in our typical cards. I also see it as responsibility, that you have attained a lot and now you're carrying a lot. And so it's learning how to delegate and share that responsibility, or sell it off and move on if it turns out it's not what you want. This is a little bit darker, like something's really got you down, as opposed to, it's challenging you to get bigger because you've just made something really big. So it's kind of a reframe that I would go another way. Again, it's a little bit dark, and maybe that's the Crowley influence. I'm not as familiar with Crowley to know. So now we're starting to have our cultural integration and diversity in the deck, which is one of the reasons I really wanted it. This is the Maasai. So the Maasai represent the fire family. And we're going to family versus royalty or monarchy. Look at the Son of Fire. Is he not handsome? Yeah, so handsome. The Mother of Fire. Now, it's interesting that the mothers and the queens in this are much older. A lot of times they're represented as middle-aged, but these are more the wise ones. And the wise father, or the Father of Fire. Okay. So here we have that same ace sort of signal, which I'm not as fond of, but this is the cups. Again, we have our background, and we have this, I think it's knots. They're kind of like, I don't know if you want to call them Aztec or Celtic, but they're like, they have meaning that I'm not totally familiar with, just like all the symbols do. We've got our zodiacal, and we've got our planetary, and our elemental signs that are signs of water, right? Cancer, Scorpio, and what is that one? See, I'm not that sharp. I have to get back on board. So we have 2 seahorses in love. So this one is much more of not just a partnership that could be business or lifelong friends, but it's a romantic union. And then we have the 3s of abundance and our beautiful femininity of water, intuition. It's beautiful. Here we have comfort rather than apathy. We have now built ourselves into a comfortable place where emotionally we're stable and surrounded by family, and all is good. But then follows disruption, disappointment, because that's the only other place to go. We stay in good until something happens. And this is sad, right? This is when everything dries up and things didn't turn out the way that we had thought. To me, that's a devastating card. That's like, wow. That is just, these people don't get just caught out or aren't just sad like in a Rider-Waite. This breaks your heart, right? This breaks something in you. Happiness. See, we're not just in nostalgia or childhood. This is just pure unadulterated happiness, which I love having that card because I like happiness a lot. I think that's an important, that's our ultimate goal. Illusion. This is the mirage, and this is the actual, repercussions of following illusion where you actually aren't able to sustain it and nurture yourself. That's a powerful a powerful 7 of cups, I think. Rather than just all the possible choices, it's like you're really running on fumes. You're running on nothing there. despair as opposed to having to leave or having to make a choice that has more meaning. This one is despair with where you've gotten, right? And so it's before you leave. It's what you feel that makes you go, I can't stay here and do this. You know, I am moving on to something that's more meaningful for myself. This is that moment before the Rider-Waite one, I think. Then we have joy, though, because once you've despaired and you realize this is not where I'm meant to be, you jump to where you are meant to be. And then it's dolphins. Nothing but dolphins. And repletion. Repletion. Yeah, this is a word I don't use a lot, so it's different, but I think it's like restoration. It's like now that you have won the game, you can rest and relax in your ecstasy and your comfort and your emotional fulfillment. So for the waters, they've picked Maori. Look at the Maori fishhook, right? Beautiful Maori family for water, because they are masters of the water, which indeed they are. I have some very dear Maori friends, and when I visit them in New Zealand, it is about the water. A lot of it. Here is our beautiful sun. And our beautiful mother who sports the moku. And then we have our warrior father who looks like he's going to break out in the haka any moment, right? And they all have their beautiful, it's probably a green stone, that's probably an ivory around their neck. And he's got the, I don't know if it's tea leaves or myli leaves, but all very traditional cultures. Okay, moving on. Earth. Gems of the earth. I don't have a lot to say for the aces. I'm not, like, it doesn't take my breath away, and I love it when aces take my breath away. All right, so earth, well, we've got a two of earth. We've got change, which is, you know, changing seasons in this one. Going from barren to growth, all things change in cycles. So rather than being overwhelmed or juggling or multitasking, we're just allowing the seasons to come and go, moving through them in this too. Worker bees, which work in teams, so that says it all. Stability rather than apathy. Really getting roots and getting grounded and very stable, like you're not moving from this place, which that's why I think people turn to apathy, because they get too satisfied, and we are just meant to keep moving and changing. And when we stay in one place, it even though it's safe and we finally arrived at something, it's uncomfortable to stay still like that. Only a tree can have that kind of stability. We're not that comfortable with it. But anyway, we experience it, we have it, and then we're going to move on to, well, unfortunately, in this deck, it's Torment, which is really rough. I mean, I know Five of Pentacles is rough, but you can sort of soften it with, you know, just ask to go inside. You're going through a phase. What you need to do is seek help. This one is like somebody needs to come and help you, and it's rough. This deck's got some powerful punches. I wouldn't use it on kids or somebody who's particularly vulnerable coming to you in any kind of a state. This is much more of somebody like, give it to me. I need to know. I can take it. So far, I'm thinking about this deck. I love this success, right? Instead of charity, this is success. And victory, sometimes the success in the wands. We have two cards for that. We have one that's victory. You've got one that's success. So to me, that's a little different in the way I would read the cards. Again, we're all in earth here. Failure. I do not read Seven of Pentacles as failure, because it may not be a failure, but in this deck it is. So that's an adjustment. Circumspection. So this is, you know, reviewing the situation, which again, I don't necessarily normally have that interpretation for the eight. So that's something that you have to either adjust for when you're using this deck particularly, or figure out how it works for you. As you look at the sun, Scorpio. Oh, I put something down, you can't see it. The little sun up there and a little Scorpio. So those References are always there. Gain. Gain works. Usually it's independence and life on your terms and calling the shots. But I guess if you gain your wealth and your money, then that's one way to do it. And wealth. Pretty clear. Lots of crops or good grapes for good wine. So here in the earth, we've got just pretty much a Caucasian family that's represented. All right. Here's our young, almost jock-like, handsome Aryan. And then we have the wise mother, which could be a grandmother versus a mother, which I think is interesting that we kind of jump right to crone. And I love this guy. This is the salt of the earth father. He's the street smart guy versus the intellectual that might be in our air. This is the guy that just has common sense and makes a killing with it. But he's just your everyday guy, right? He's the American dream. Okay, our last suit here we have is air. Again, the aces, they are very similar. This is a tornado or a hurricane or something like that, representing air. More wind, but... So 2, equilibrium. I'm not quite crossroads, but interesting, like getting your balance in this deck. This is a rough one. Again, another tough one, because you still have the 3 swords in the heart, but you also have this addiction, self-abuse, what this can drive you to. Sorry, I covered it up. You know, how that kind of pain will cause you to sabotage, self-sabotage. So it's about getting a handle on the story that's making you feel like such a victim. I'm extrapolating now. This card doesn't necessarily see that, but that's where I would go with it. Truce. 4 of Swords is a truce. Again, a new interpretation. This must be the Crowley versus the Rider-Waite, which I'm sorry I'm not as familiar with, but this is something I'm learning that you might be learning with me. Defeat. This is, again, harsher. I'm usually consequences or result of actions that you may have won, but what did you lose? But that's not what that card is. That card's defeat. So adjustment. Knowledge. This is an interesting card. Knowing. Which is great because 6s are kind of a rebalancing or success. So once you've learned something from defeat, and maybe, you know, in this deck, I'm going to go a little bit with like our greatest teachers are our defeats. Oh, I am sorry I keep doing that. Our greatest challenges. And now we know. Deception for the 7. That's pretty, you know, you can correlate that too. But I don't quite get the picture in that one. Who's being deceived? The person giving the food or the person getting the food? The bird giving the food or the bird receiving the food? So I'll have to look that one up. Interference. That's pretty cool. With the 8, it's an interference. Wow. And I guess a nightmare, you know, typical, something's getting in your way. That's mental. You're mentally getting something in the way. Some thought, some idea, you're way ahead of yourself, or you're way up there in the clouds. Another one of these rough ones. Thank God they're illustrations. But this is cruelty. This is like our torment card. I mean, they don't really mess around, do they? Who's being cruel? That's a good question. And then destruction. So here we have, you know, still a carcass laying on the ground, but this one's been picked clean. And it's a necessary part of life, right? We're cleaning the bones off and we're getting ready to build anew, right? We have to destroy before we can build again. This is the Chinese family. Nothing much to say. They are absolutely spot on. She is like an empress from the dynasty, right? you know they didn't mess around. And I don't really want to say mess around, but... And here's our ruling Father of Air. Okay, so really culturally diverse, really, I think it's a very provocative deck. I started actually working with edging it because I think that really gives the deck depth, but my marker ran out, so I couldn't finish it. So you can see there's parts where I really like the darker, it's a dark gray versus the whites. And I'll have to finish that tomorrow, but I want to finish this tonight. And here we have a little spread. So let's do a quick spread, shall we? And see what the cards do and how they shuffle, which I kind of know. They shuffle nice. They're really good for overhand. Like I said, they're a sturdy card. So they feel good in their hands. They don't feel thin. They don't bend really easily. So if you're a riffle shuffler, this isn't going to suddenly just bend for you. They're stiff. They're much stiffer than that. So they do not ruffle shuffle easily. So overhand is good. Hear the sound. That shuffling sound. And we're going to do this spread, which is the New Era Elements Tarot spread. And it's an elemental spread with the first position being fire, the second water, the third earth, the fourth air, and the fifth is resolution, inner obstacles, outer forces, and then conclusion. All right, we're going to do one more pass here. And because this is coming from perfect order, so we want to give it as much as we can. And that's just going to have to do for today's walkthrough. Let's see, what does the Elemental Tarot deck want to tell us? Let's see if we can make enough room. We might have a little bit of an adjustment here so I can get more cards in. This is me lifting up. And let's see if I can get 4 cards in. So now we have our fire card, which is the 7 of fire, which is bravery. So we've got fire and fire to start with. It's not really focusing. Let's see if I can get it to focus better. Okay. In our water position, we have the daughter of water. So we have our Maori young lady. She's so gorgeous. Sorry, I gotta go in. In earth, we have a water, right? So earth and water, they're kind of, doesn't water sort of erode earth? I mean, it's not like fire. It's kind of, it's negative neutral, I would say. And we have in our air, we have another fire exploration. So we've got this one being revved up. We've got these in their home, so they're really solid. But what we've got here is we've got really taking on something that's going to call on you to be bigger than you've been before, to be willing to sacrifice for what you believe in, to stand up for what you believe in. And it's and it's about who you are. It's about your intuition. It's, trusting your intuition above other things, no matter what it may appear not as logical. It may seem like not the obvious thing to do, but if you have the bravery and the courage to stand up for yourself and the messages you're getting, and really starting to let that little voice rise. We've got, I'm just going on now, we've got earth, how's your material existence affecting? Then you can rest in, oh my God, that's so beautiful. You can rest in the assurance that emotionally, when you learn to trust yourself and your intuition and follow your own guidance, then nobody can take away your happiness and your hard-won place of comfort and nurturing in your own skin. I think that's amazing. What do you think or understand about the situation, or who can you turn to give good advice? Is the exploring, the passion. So we've got air and fire. So it's really saying, let that fire to learn and to grow and to explore go. Let it grow. The situation is trust your instinct. Be brave enough to follow your own intuition. You will find great solace in that. And from that place of power, you can learn and grow and continue to explore. That's really beautiful. Sorry, I'm messing around from my viewpoint and not yours. I am so sorry about that. Okay, so now let's see. What is the inner obstacles or outer forces at play? Look at perfection. Listen, then you can start to dance with the universe. And what is the outcome? Is a conflict. The outcome is a fire conflict, which means, I think it just says it puts you in a place because you're now dancing with fire, you're now playing with fire, you're going to get out there and you're going to have friction, you're going to make things shift, you're going to grow, you're going to, from adversity, you will, it's kind of like perturbation to me, that this allows you to grow. And we have to grow through conflict, through friction, through testing ourselves against what scares us or against what would keep us small, to get as big and as powerful and as happy and as strong as we possibly can. So that's just a quick way I would go with that. I think it's a pretty good message for us to say, trust yourselves. You will find emotional comfort and freedom to explore who you want to be, to dance with the elements, and to go head to head with even the fiercest of adversaries when you take yourself and trust yourself and love yourself and listen to yourself. All right, everybody, I hope this has been as inspiring for you, as exciting as I have been to get this deck. Again, I'm celebrating the fact that this mass market deck really stands up with its packaging, its cardstock, and its artistry, as well as its thoughtfulness of, what does this tarot deck bring to us or bring to your collection? It brings modern elements, cultural diversity, and beautiful, beautiful artistry to stimulate your intuition and channel your guides to come through with these new images to say, what are we saying here? How can we take this yet a new and different and expand our understanding of the cards? So I'm going to stop talking because I'm trying to get this short. I hope you are taking good care of yourselves and following the advice that this spread gave you. Until we meet again, do take care of yourself and have a very, very blessed day. Farewell for now.